We're back. It's going to be time for game 2 of JDG versus EDG very, very shortly. EDG with the slender lead. And Louis, just what are we going to see JDG change to try and get themselves this game 2 win?
A lot and nothing. No.
That's it. Casters, over to you. The analyst desk is sorted.
We're the professionals.
I think. Yeah, I think they need a more safe bot lane, either through reducing the matchup on the other side or picking up a Tom Kench or something themselves. Just get that as safe as possible. Don't let leads happen. Just give him a couple of CS, it's fine, and just try to make plays through. For example, mid lane. I mean, Flaw is supposed to be a Gao. That sounds like something that should be able to come up with something. To get some leads here, maybe pick up the Galio or something. I don't know. There's a bunch of options. It's kind of analysis paralysis, but that's why I say they can change everything and nothing.
Return, you talked about a Caitlyn ban being pivotal. Is that still the key thing in your mind, or is it so much more than that?
I think it's definitely so much more than that. The Caitlyn ban is more the band-aid solution at this point, when maybe there isn't much else in the meta right now for ADCs that can really contest with it. I think, though, Jindong really needs to rethink what their priorities are going into this game. Coming into this entire tournament, where we were really looking at Jindong as a more top lane-focused team, between that trio with Flawless, looking at top lane as well with Zoom, and then Yagao in mid lane. That's really where they've historically been strong, and they haven't focused it at all this entire tournament. Like last game, it felt like the Victor into the Yagao was a bit more of an afterthought. Mid lane jungle never got anything off the ground, and the biggest drawback was just Jindong Gaming were bleeding out of bot lane, and they didn't really try, or they weren't able to fix anything elsewhere. So if they're going to sacrifice and say, all right, yeah, iBoy may just be the superior ADC in this matchup, you need to be willing to hit back somewhere else.
Okay, well, we're going to get a chance to find out whether or not JDG are bouncing back or whether they are on their way home for Christmas. Let's pass ourselves over to our fantastic casters, Peter, Counterfeit Hartnell, and also Rob Gosu Dreams Price.
All right, guys, welcome back. So now we get into our second encounter, last chance for Jindong Gaming to stay alive. The first game, incredibly well executed by Edward Gaming. Gosu, what needs to change coming into this second game?
Well, I don't think we're going to get a huge amount of change looking at this pick ban so far. I was going to say, I kind of agreed with the guys that the bot lane needed to change. I think the biggest issue, though, was actually just the Thresh. I think the Thresh enabled it so well, and the bot lane to take over so well. In particular, when you're looking alongside a Fiddlesticks pick, it didn't make a huge amount of sense to me what they're hoping to achieve with that. I know it suits well into a big wombo combo, but you got to get through the laning phase first, and Jindong were a long way from getting through that laning phase. So I want to see what the new style here is. I'm not the biggest fan of the Jhin. I think you end up kind of in a similar situation where you can be punished so easily by this Caitlyn if any sort of CC or even the likes of, just go with the Thresh again. If the Thresh lands the hook on you, well, then you're in a heap of trouble as well. So I feel like JD Gaming are looking at exactly what happened last game and gone, we aren't really sure how to fix this.
No, I'm really surprised to see the Caitlyn being allowed back through again, because this is something we were considering between games. Does JDG think that they have a solution to the Caitlyn, or are they just better off throwing it away? We will be seeing the return of the Zoe, and the jungle pick this time round going to be picked up earlier for Edward Gaming.
Yeah, and it makes sense when you've got so many support still available. I mean, we've seen Thresh, we've seen Morgana, we've seen Tam Kench. There's so many that are still there. Actually, well, we will be seeing Thresh, but it will be on the side of JD Gaming. And I like this. I like avoiding Caitlyn where she's got a very oppressive laner with her. it means that then you've got an easier time for Bavoy. You've got that Lantern there as well if he does end up having a misstep in that early stages, and it makes things a little bit easier. So now that EDG have seen this, I want to figure out what they decide to go with. They kind of want something that can continue to push in. I mean, Caitlyn really does want to get those armor plates for herself, to get herself rolling and snowballing as effectively as we saw in the last game. So I'm curious, maybe they end up going with a mage instead of one of the big tanky guys like a Braum or something that we've seen previously.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what they can use to try and replicate the same success. Because as you said, the Thresh taken away by JDG this time round. So we'll have to see what other options there are. As JDG themselves will go after what I guess they perceive to be similar picks. You mentioned the Tam Kench stripped away, the safety of Morgana as well. So two very safe supports down in the bottom lane. Not going to be options for EDG as they get Braum up on their last ban.
Yeah, but it will also leave the mid counter pick open for Jingdong Gaming, and I'm curious to see, you know, how they do want to go with this. There hasn't been an awful lot put towards it, so I think in this respect, Scout is just like, look, I'm going to lock in Zoe, you're not going to beat it, and I don't care what you lock in into it, apart from the Aurelia. The Yasuo didn't really have that great of an impact last game, so I'm not going to switch up the formula this time around.
Well, in the first game, you were saying that, you know, Flawless really had to wait until that level 6 to make it a big impact. Now in the Kha'Zix, will that still be the same?
You can. It's not the level 6. You can definitely get involved a little bit earlier. And we actually saw in the RNG game, MLXG was on the winning side of this matchup, because if you can find Lee Sin isolated in his jungle, you can dish out a huge amount of damage. But again, you are kind of looking at this counter jungling style for Flawless, which really did not work out in his favor. He does have laners now that can set him up, though. He has the Thresh, he has, which is a lot better than the Fiddlesticks in trying to set up a gank for the jungler. And he's also got that Aatrox as well. So 2 lanes there already that he can prioritize and see if he can get himself rolling on the bug.
Last time around, it all went according to plan for EDG, but just as you said, they picked up that Braum in a support position to complement the pre-existing Caitlyn. One more choice to send up to top lane. Certainly, the Titanic Urgot seems like an extremely solid option.
Yeah, and as well, I like that JD were hanging on until the end to see where they were actually going to put this Aatrox, because you can still put him into the mid lane against Zoe. It's not the best matchup, but it is something you can do if you really want to prioritize a good lane for Zoom. It will be, though, the Rise that they're hovering at the moment, but actually a last second over to Syndra. I like this. I really do think you just, when it comes to something like a Zoe, she's not very good if you can lock her down. So just have a Scatter the Weak there that can pick her off, set up Kha'Zix, and you've got a bunch of burst for her as well. So that Trickster won't be going anywhere anytime soon.
I really like we're seeing a little bit more proactivity from the JDG side. It felt like Edward were just able to, you know, dictate the pace all game long. Based on what we've seen here, do you feel like Jingdong have done enough to turn around this game and start to, you know, maybe make impacts themselves?
It's a hard one to call because we're pretty much seeing the exact same out of EDG. I mean, you've got the Zoe, you've got the Caitlyn, a strong early game jungler, and you've got a top laner that we're not going to see for the next 20 to 25 minutes. So it's kind of difficult to call it. It is going to be a case of how well they can play this early game. I think they do have some better tools this time around, like the Syndra in the mid lane has a bit more priority than the Yasuo would have. As well, you've got that jungler. Yes, you've got Kha'Zix, who isn't the same. You don't have the same amount of CC, you don't have the same amount of pressure, I'd say, but you've got lanes that enable him a lot better. So I think Flawless this time around should find his way an easier time anyway, wandering through the jungle.
We'll see if Flawless can manage to do it for Jingdong. This is their last chance to stay in the Winter Demacia Championship. Otherwise, they will be going home at the end of this, and we'll be seeing Edward Gaming advance. Certainly, Edward put on a clinic in game number 1. I'll be fascinated to see if they can do the same thing against a Jingdong team who know what's coming.
I think the biggest issue that I'm going to be looking at is team fights around these big objectives like Baron. If we end up getting to the 20 to 25 minute mark and everything's pretty, you know, evenly spread across the board, I think it becomes pretty hard for the side of JD Gaming to try and move in towards that Baron area. You've got, you know, traps that can be set up. You can have Scout hovering off on the side. You've also got Mako there who can block up a lot of the damage that's going to be coming through from Bavoy, from Miguel, and it becomes a very difficult very difficult part of the game to try and navigate your way through successfully. So JD Gaming again have kind of put themselves in a situation where they need to be ahead early so they can have control of these big objectives, or they run the risk of just falling over limp in the hands of EDG.
EDG taking their first tournament win. JDG yet to taste any form of victory themselves. Zebra Gaming showing their confidence, charge right into the Jendong jungle, looking to mark their territory a little bit in the early going. Maybe trying to do a little bit of the old intimidation to try and make sure they go for the clean 2-0.
I like it, the pause coming through. It's like, sorry, they killed a ward at the start. That's unfair. They have an advantage now. Can we just remake the game? But, yeah, we will be seeing what this pause is going to be in just a few moments. But I think, yeah, the aggression earlier on is just because you've got a Braum, you've got the Lee Sin. These are two of the strongest early game champions for invades. And just because you can lock up so many different members with the concussive stacks, and Lee Sin can execute whoever's unfortunate enough to find their way in between Braum and that big goat's head. So I think we're still seeing a good amount of confidence from EDG moving into this game, but you do have to be careful because that confidence can sometimes come back to bite you.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I guess what we're looking for here, particularly in the early going, Gosu, is can you identify any particular points of opportunity that might be there for Jendong to start off this game too with a little bit of momentum for themselves?
I think it is going to be on the... I know it sounds weird. It's on the bottom lane. I think this Thresh pick really does enable some early aggression, particularly alongside of Kha'Zix, who can try and wander in. When you're looking at League of Legends on the bottom side of the map, you got to remember that when you're on that on the blue side, you've got that tri-brush in behind you when you're playing. So it makes it a little bit more difficult when you're looking at keeping yourself safe, and it enables Kha'Zix a lot more as well because he is a jungler that can find difficulty getting his way into these lanes. So when you're on red side, you're able to sneak in behind them and try and catch them unaware. And if you've got that Thresh, you can easily set up the gank or blow a few summoners just as you're arriving to that lane, but it makes that gank a heck of a lot easier. And you should potentially be able to start this Kha'Zix up and rolling, and maybe we see the same performance that we saw from MLXG earlier on in the day.
I mean, well, I think I kind of have the answer to this one already, but certainly, based on what we saw from Mao in that previous game, we know that they like to be the ones trying to make a play, so I really hope to see them trying to replicate Maker's performance. I mean, last time round, those hooks were absolutely fantastic. As you were saying, right from the start of the game, they really set the tone for the bottom lane.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to kind of look at it and go, if we end up having our ADC back before we've cleared 2 waves, we're probably not going to have the best of times in this lane. And it was kind of prophetic where you saw just complete takeover from the side of EDG. Now you can see they're even in the enemy jungle stealing away a blue buff. It will force vertical jungling out of the Kha'Zix, so you'll see Flawless probably making his way in to try and steal away the top lane blue buff as well. But this is a good call from EDG. If they do end up forcing the vertical jungling, well, now you know from JD Gaming that, okay, Harrow's going to be on the bottom side of the map, or at least most likely on this bottom side of the map. We can't be the ones going aggressive. And again, it will enable iBoy and Mako to try and put their stamp on this bottom lane.
Yeah, Flawless does manage to get hold of that blue buff. I think without getting spotted out, but already in the bottom lane, we are seeing JDG, with thanks to Mao on that Thresh, getting a little bit more aggressive, but still the early laning power of the Caitlyn pushing them right back and allowing for Harrow to have a lot of room to breathe in the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, it's going to make it an even more difficult task for the bottom lane of JDG, but the good news is it does open up this top side. So you can have Zoom, you can have Yugao play that more aggressive style, play around where Q early trades against the Urgot. See if you can force him down a little bit low and then have Kha'Zix come up and join him.
A nice use of the chains there to drag Ray back into place. Doesn't have any kind of ignite or anything else, but we have got Flawless round to the side. Ray, exactly as you said, low enough, but needs to get isolated for that Kha'Zix damage to really...
Now, actually, you can see Yagao has found Harrow. Will be able to put down a little bit of damage, but won't be answering in return.
Really nicely played as well. Higao just keeping their calm and seeing the jungler arriving, stepping away from that sleepy trouble bubble and avoiding too much damage, holding on to both summoners in that last exchange. JDG, apparently between games, they found themselves some new form and they're on the right path.
They most certainly are. Now you can see actually Zoom trying to see if he can continue bullying Ray. Will manage to connect again.
Wow, that trade was crazy. Those chains were absolutely perfectly placed, but B-Boy down in the bottom side hasn't got the heal, will be chased away with the ignite. Has, yeah, still suffering under iBoy's pressure and falling behind at least a little bit on CS in the early going.
It doesn't matter what ability you give Mako, he's going to land that Q onto Bavoy, and this time again finds himself with less than half his health bar, less than a quarter of his health bar even, and iBoy is still sitting pretty there, manages to connect another Peacemaker, but Bavoy is just not having luck at all with any of the Q abilities, it turns out.
No, it's the tough time for JDG down the bottom side, even while success has been found in the top. JDG remain ahead for the time being, but yes, the pressure continuing to mount. We've already seen some of that tower placing go down in the bottom side. A very well-earned bit of extra gold coming in, but we'll see if maybe JDG can keep up their early successes such as they are.
Well, see, this is the thing, is that EDG have come in with their game plan. Invade early, get control of the blue buff, force vertical jungling, and then we can have control of this bottom side of the map. They are all in on the iBoy basket. They have put the eggs in, they put the kitchen sink, they have whatever other metaphor you want to throw into this conversation. It is all
Sounds
on
delicious.
iBoy, and that's, yeah. I do like a little bit of rust with my eggs, you know, in the morning, but it's just a case of how do you try and deal with this? You are already losing heavily in the bot lane. It wasn't the 3-minute mark where our ADC was backing. Instead, it's the 5-minute mark that Bavoy is backing. But the key word is he's still backing when these big minion waves are hitting onto the turret. It's forcing him behind. And yes, they got the kill on Terrain, the top lane, but he's not the one that's having the impact. He's not the one that they need to worry about. It is this Caitlyn time and time again.
We've got the junglers tangoing in the jungle, but we've already seen Harrow's giving a lot of respect across the Flawless, just ducking and diving as soon as the bug is seen, immediately getting out. Doesn't want to take any risks early of taking an unfavorable 1v1. CS has even out on the top side, and this is something we praised EG for before. They're able to neutralize that top side pretty well, even with Zoom getting that early assist in. You know, it's pretty much equalized, even with these brutal trades that Zoom keeps administering.
Yeah, he's taken a little bit of hurt, but is able to keep himself up in CS, and as well has that cull there, so should be able to keep himself nice and topped up on the L gold as well, if he does fall a little bit behind. So overall, EDG aren't really bleeding anywhere around the map, whereas you're looking at a pretty gaping wound in the bottom lane for Jingdong Gaming. So the real question is, how does Flawless try and counteract this? We can see that he's starting to run into Harrow every so often, and it's coming even a little bit harder for him to try and take that 1v1. iBoy, managed to sidestep the hook.
Yeah, the hook being avoided there as Mao, taking out incredibly low, burns through that flash and dies anyway. Big advantage for EDG. They have access to that tier 1 tower, and Bavoy can't do too much of anything about it because Flawless is nowhere nearby.
And this was it again, was how, like, what do you do in this scenario? This Caitlyn is starting to take off alongside Mako. You got to look at the drafts. Why do you lock in a short-range AD carry against this Caitlyn? We've seen Ashe. Works fantastic. You've got good wave here. You've got that long-range attack range as well, so you're able to actually avoid all the poke and the hurt that iBoy wants to put down on this champion. And including that, you've now got even more CC that you can start to lock up Scout. You can lock up iBoy. You can make these plays in the bottom lane and shut down all that pressure. But instead, they're on the receiving end.
Just manages to escape before that last stack comes in. Had to burn the flash, but yeah, well, EEG, they've got a slightly modified plan from before, but what remains constant is their ability to pick and choose the perfect moment to go in and start the aggression. And the second JDG come back to the bottom lane, they're already working at a massive disadvantage in the mid side, though. How is there to turn around the play? Unleash Power comes out, and by a hair's breadth, Scout stays alive. EG take control of the mid.
We were saying that it was Flawless who needs to make the plays, but that was a flawless play from Harrow. Manages to save the mid laner, get control of this mid lane for the side of EDG now as well. And overall, Flawless is just left to eat dirt as he makes his way to just clean up a few minions that have managed to teeter their way over towards the mid lane turret.
Every time I see JDG going into the side lane bushes in the mid lane, I cringe because it did not work for them at all in game number 1. So any time I'm seeing it again, I'm just, it speaks to perhaps JDG kind of falling back into those behavior patterns, which did not work for them at all in the first game. Let's take another look at the play in the mid.
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm Yagao here, I'm like, wait, why did you ignite? That seems a little bit skeptical, but it's not going to be enough. Almost has enough damage to finish off Scout, and you would have got the 1-for-1 trade, but the heal is sitting in the back pocket of this Zoe, and means that she's just about able to eke out enough survivability to be able to make the play. But with that going down in the mid lane, it does open up that map now for the rest of EDG and for Harrow in particular as well, who has been doing a great job of just controlling where Jingdong Gaming can put their pressure. Now we see Scout actually going forward.
Flashing with the bubble and the panel star. Unfortunately for Yagao, the turret's not blocking those stars. It's an enormous amount of damage, and this is going to allow EDG to make a move in on the Mountain Drake. Didn't have it before for Edward Gaming, but an excellent compliment to the Caitlyn pushing power.
This is just going from bad to worse for Jingdong Gaming. No jungle pressure has pretty much made its way into the lane for EDG, and iBoy has managed to, alongside Mako, pick up that tower for themselves. Now, it is coming back to Harrow's controlling style and being able to force Flawless into hard choices and hard decisions and not really able to get the impact that he would have liked. But overall, you still got to just look at this and go, boy, you've been outclassed.
Well, something which we're kind of sleeping on a little bit here is that JDG have moved their Bavoy up to the top lane before the 14-minute mark, so they've got full access to all of that tower plating as well. On top of that, they've got access to the Herald before that even comes forward, but let's take another look at how things played out in the mid.
Yeah, it's just good call coming through. Mako again with these roams has just been such a big factor for EDG in how they want to make their moves, how they want to play around the map. And you can see, look, yes, you get the kill, but it's also, as we were saying, these couple of chip damages onto the armor plating that really are big factors that are make such a difference to the game from Worlds, where now you're picking up all this extra gold, so you're getting even more punished for mistakes that you're making. Now it's Scout again in this mid lane, just clearing waves from way far back because he doesn't want to deal with Zoom or with Mao, but he's happy. He's picked up 2 assists. He's got 4 of the turret platings gone now. He's got a nice chunk of gold in his back pocket, and Haru trying to see if he can get onto Mao.
Mao getting baited out of the play a little too early. Doesn't get caught with all the crowd control. The box comes down. Mao, nice use of the death sentence to get away. Extends the range, the flash to stay alive, but that mid tower is low. EG, they might not got exactly what they wanted, but it's not going to stop the momentum.
But guess who's left all alone when LV Mao is forced back to base? It's going to be a Bavoy, which is why you can see him just clearing the hell away from that top lane turret. He's like, you know what? I know there's a Lee Sin here. I know there's a Braum here. I'm not going to be the sitting duck underneath this turret. I'm walking right the way back towards my tier 2. Now, he'll be able to hang on for a little bit and maybe clear some of these minions, but it's a very dangerous game he's playing.
Ray will get found by Flawless in the jungle. Does have that heal come in immediately as JDG try and make a pick of their own. Pressure continues to mount from EDG in the top side, trying to execute on the same game plan as before, but JDG going a little bit more proactive. Zoom has got the ult. Even if Ray does get the hit here, will burn through it as Flawless not able to get the last bit of isolation damage.
Ray wasn't quite able to connect with the Fear Beyond Death either, so he's going to be forced to back away because he won't have that CC coming in if he gets the kill. Means that you're going to see that Rift Herald pop the bottom lane.
nearly gets
he'd be able
caught
to
as well.
escape it.
Scout takes
though.
the full ultimate to the face, and I don't know what happened there, but Scout left on the tower. I don't know if they had a slight disconnect, but that's a huge pickup for JDG.
Yeah, I feel like that was a disconnect, especially with the pause coming through directly after, because he just was not moving. But overall, you can see Jingdong Gaming have made a play on one side of the map, but it does leave them very vulnerable on the top side, which is where that Caitlyn is slowly chipping away at that top turret. And unfortunately, we'll have to wait and see which way that mid lane turns out, because it hasn't quite gone in the way EDG were hoping.
Yeah, I'm liking a lot what we're seeing from JDG in this second game. It does feel like they're, now that they've acknowledged what Ava Gaming are trying to do, and apparently trying to do almost exactly the same way a second time, they're much more proactive in trying to make plays. If they can't make a play onto iBoy, perhaps they can make a play elsewhere and not have to deal with iBoy's power.
I think as well, it's just the confidence that they show in iBoy. They were like, look, do you know what? We're going to leave him to his own devices. And between himself and Mako, they're going to get the lead in that bottom lane. And this is why I was looking at the vertical jungling in the early stages. It was just to make sure that there was no jungle intervention down there at all. And it could just be its own little, essentially like an experiment in the bottom lane. You've got no outside factors that could influence our experiments going on. It's going to be just the two bottom laners and their supports. And we end up seeing that EDG are just continuously powering their way through and end up coming out on top over and over again. So without the contaminants of junglers involved in this, it's so easy for EDG to just keep running this strategy.
Okay, we are receiving word that there's a decent chance of there actually being a rewind, a chrono break on that last section. As we were saying, it seemed like there was a technical issue which actually led to that last kill. So with that in mind, it does make sense to try and rewind and play out. So sad times for JDG, who have their, however, temporary victory snatched away. But Gosu, even without that, with that unexpected kill, which I suspect will no longer be part of this match, how do you feel like JDG are doing, reacting to what Ever Gaming have been putting out?
Well, see, it's so hard to react to it. It's because of the way that Harrow has been playing. He's just been controlling Flawless pretty much throughout this game. It means that Flawless hasn't been able to get in and influence the key areas of this map, which is that bottom lane, which is that mid lane. We're saying already that there are ways that he can be set up. There is CC available, like in particular on that Syndra. But because of just the way Harrow has controlled where this Kha'Zix is allowed to go, it's made it way easier for the likes of Scout in the mid lane, who would be one of the more vulnerable picks if you're looking from the side of Jingdong Gaming. Well, now they don't have that option. He's playing safe. He's playing back. He's playing towards the bottom side of the map because he knows Kha'Zix is on the top sider. It becomes a very different game and a much heavier game to try and overcome when you're on the side of Jingdong Gaming.
So since we've got the time to do this, let's try and break it down with even more granularity, because it seems like the plan from JDG is to try and work around the Ever Gaming bottom lane and just try and find the successes elsewhere. What we saw just at the end there was an attempted pick on to raise Urgot to allow access to that tier 2. I mean, certainly in the last game, I'm not even sure that JDG got any of the turret placing, but I think at this point, and I hope memory does serve in this case, that they're actually keeping up pretty well in that regard.
They have been to a certain extent. Bottom lane is just like a no-go zone, essentially, because iBoy has just been contesting that overall. He's been forcing that consistently. They did get that top lane turret. I didn't look at the mid lane from the side of Jingdong, but I know that the Jingdong's own turret in the mid lane had only one armor plating remaining, so even then Scout has been getting some good chip damage down. It's a bit of a difficult call to make when you're on the side of Jingdong Gaming as to how you want to progress with this. I think your best bet is to just try and force heavy plays. I think you've got to, I know it sounds bad, I think you just got to sacrifice Bavoy at this point. Let him just try and get whatever farm he can in that top lane before that turret goes down, but have the supports roam down, trying alongside the jungler, have Mao and Xiaohan Flawless even, try and get in and just be a nuisance in the mid lane. Try and shut down Scout. Try and get yourself a turret there. Now you've got 2 turrets down. You can start to get little bit more vision control, and you can start to get Flawless unlocked a little bit more. Keep track of where this Lee Sin is. But it becomes a very difficult task because of the champions that are there. You've got Caitlyn, who notoriously can be kind of hard to keep her hands on when she has the net away. She's got such long range. They've got good vision control already. So Jindong do have definitely an uphill battle, but there are ways that they can come back into it. And I wouldn't even say playing around Bavoy, just certainly play around Zoom in the top lane. Like, you have an Aatrox there. This is a champion that can definitely take over that matchup. Try and get him so then he can become a split push player. And when you start to see these sieges trying to be set up by Scout and by the Caitlyn for iBoy, well, now you've got, okay, we've got an outlet. We've got somewhere that we can create pressure with. We can force the rest of EDG to try and backtrack and save their turrets or save whatever the hell this Aatrox can get their hands on.
Well, yeah, I mean, the song which we've kind of wanted to examine as well. So would you say, does it make more sense for JDG to try and send up their strong members against the Caitlyn, or to send the strong members elsewhere and just try and accomplish the same thing that the Caitlyn's doing in a different lane?
I think at this point, it's sack the lane that the Caitlyn's in, and because you should be able to get a different tower for yourself anyway. And that's kind of what they're doing before the chrono break came through. That was what the game plan was. We saw that it was both members of Jindong. We had Flawless and Zoom down in the bottom lane trying to see if they could jump onto Ray, and then they popped down the Rift Arrow. They were going to try and force that play. So it's okay, we're trading 1 for 1. We're no longer bleeding. We're trading evenly. We also got some flashes and some summoner spells. Then you can start to roam towards the mid lane and go, okay, we've got this top lane and bot lane down. We now should be able to take over at least somewhat the jungle with vision of EDG. Now we can try and make a dive play onto the mid lane turret because we've got an Aatrox who's got this survivability. He's not going to die. They end up in these just winning scenarios where, yes, we're losing a tower, but we're getting a kill on a tower. We're getting 2 kills and a summoner spell. We're slowly starting to eke up our game plan. We're slowly starting to get a bit more gold into our pockets. And yes, Caitlyn will become a nuisance in the late game, but the rest of our 4 members are all super fed. Well, then there's not really a huge amount she can do.
Yeah, well, this is something we were praising EDG for doing in the previous game. It's such a great thing when you're a team that's ahead to be, to then start trading objectives because you stay ahead, but more of the map ends up getting opened up. I guess what I would like to pitch to you as well is, if we ignore, Bavoy, if they end up becoming something of a non-issue because they're getting so oppressed by JDG's bottom lane, do you think Zoom and Yagao can provide enough punch for the JDG team in the later game?
I definitely think they can. I mean, Zoom already has shown that he can play a very strong Aatrox and has been bullying the Urgot of Ray in the top lane over and over again. And as well, you only need one form of CC to land onto this Caitlyn for the Syndra to just walk up and delete her. The Syndra will absolutely be able to destroy that Caitlyn health bar if she's given the opportunity. But it is that point of, is she given the opportunity? If they end up just letting this Caitlyn run around like she has done in game 1, now looks like she might be able to do in game 2, they end up in a very difficult position. This is why they need to not play as defensive. You have to go on the aggressive here. Try and look, yes, we will lose a tower, but we're going to have wins elsewhere on the map rather than, okay, Bavoy's still sitting underneath this tower with Thresh. Mao hasn't been able to land a hook. Great, we lost a tower. Well, I guess that's the end game now. We haven't got any other plans in the back pocket. So it is a bit of a hard call, but it's a necessary one where you've got to sacrifice some of your not win conditions, but sacrifice some of these things you'd like to hold on to in order to bring yourself back into this game.
Well, one thing you did mention a little bit earlier on, which was the idea of the power trough of the Caitlyn pick. Certainly traditionally, and I was saying that with the gold coming out of the tower plating, that has been shortened somewhat. But is that still going to potentially be a factor in this game?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, she has that Storm Razors now completed. She's only going to be backing now to go and pick up more stuff. So she's actually going to be in a great position, particularly after she picks up this top lane turret as well. And the real question is, though, is how much can Jingdong get for answering this. And you can see right now that Rift Herald is still pushing in towards the bottom lane. Bavoy, Mao have actually managed to hold on towards the top side of the map as well. So we've now seen just, it's not a big one, but it is a little win back in favor of JD Gaming.
Yeah, I think actually, looking at it, it seems like Scout's death did remain in place as the as we came back from the break there. So Yagao got a chance to get some free time in the mid lane, push into the tower themselves, and even while JDG's tower barely stands in the mid lane, at least some breathing room bought for Gendong Gaming.
Yeah, they have a little bit, but again, Caitlyn making her way up towards that top side. We'll be able to siege in the mid. I think you just got to accept, as they kind of have at this point, that these outer turrets are not going to survive for very long, as Scout will pop in and say hello to that. But it does mean, okay, look, we're getting the vision control down, but I really want to see them move it forward, get it in towards that river, so they can spot early where iBoy's going to be, spot where Scout is going to be, what's Harrow doing. Like, essentially, if he's picking his nose, you want to be able to see it.
Well, Ray down the bottom side will receive a visit from the Force Gank Fairy, trying to give the kill across, and successfully do so. We did see EDG starting to move that way on the map, but now it's JDG with the momentum. They've got control of the bottom side with the Mountain Drake coming in under 30 seconds, and maybe even some pressure to apply to the tier 2 tower.
Yeah, they will be able to push on forward. This could actually be, you know, this is what I was saying about focusing on Zoom, is this is actually the winning lane for them right now. They're able to keep the Urgot in check, and Zoom can continue to just be this big split push pressure. And when you're forced to deal with that with multiple members, whether it's Ray and Harrow, it does give a lot of opportunities for the rest of JD Gaming to try and make the play happen, whether it's a Scatter the Weak coming through from Syndra, the hook coming through from the Thresh. You just need something to connect that can get the fight started, and you can start winning in this 4v3.
Well, JDG keep trading the objectives up. They're going to pop down the World Ender in the bottom lane as Jay tries to take shelter, but the chains, they have been on point all game along. And good use of the ult there to make sure there's no trade kill across. Mountain Drake picked up by JDG, was starting to build momentum. Actually managed to beat EDG at their own game at the moment.
They are, but you can see that there's a little bit of confusion in the JD Gaming camp. Both Mao and Bavoy started to make their way down towards the bottom lane. Then they decided, no, we're actually going to go back. Mao recalled. Jin is just kind of wandering around there like, where do I go? What's my position? What are we doing here? So, yes, it's a win, but you can still see a little bit of confusion on the faces of that lineup, as we're going to be going in towards another quick pause, but hopefully not as long as the last one.
Okay, so certainly this game too looking a heck of a lot more even than Edward Gaming's first performance was. So, well, okay, so at this point, we're looking at I believe most, if not all of the outer towers being stripped away. I believe we're pretty even as far as the elemental drakes go. So, yeah, we're kind of coming to this part of the game with the teams on more or less even footing. I believe Edward has a leave 1,000 or perhaps a couple of thousand gold. But it's certainly looking a lot better for JDG. I guess what I would say here is, where do you think things are going to turn next?
I think it is really going to come down to the lane assignments from JD Gaming as to how do they answer the Caitlyn. Because right now, in my head, I just see that, okay, we've got Scout and we've got Caitlyn, who are both in fantastic positions. Let's just send iBoy and Scout into the mid lane. We'll just siege up, and yeah, okay, Zoom will be off on his own pushing against Ray, but he's not going to be able to take towers as fast as iBoy and as fast as Scout, so we'll just win out in that way. So JD Gaming here have to try and figure out how we going to crack that. How do we try and force these fights? And I think the best way for them to do that is to actually shove the bottom side of the map and just have Zoom walk in behind them. Just cut them off, catch them unaware, and see if you can then start a fight in that 4v5 before the teleport from Ray can come in. And you have a lot of deletion power on that lineup, don't forget. Like Yagao, if he can get close to either of these squishies, would just remove them from Summoner's Rift.
It seemed like the Yagao really, really confident on this Syndra. We saw, showing no fear whatsoever, even when being ganked, knew exactly how much damage they had to output at any given time. Certainly seems to be a lot more happy, being more independent than perhaps the Yasuo pick was as before. Worth noting is that Ever Gaming have held on to their tier, the only ones so far to take a tier 2.
Yeah, but we will see Mako actually taking a little bit of hurt from the side of JD Gaming, but Yagao gets answered. It's like, oh, you wanted to hurt us. Let's show you how it's actually done.
I like that Yagao has got that cleanse in pocket as a summoner spell. Very smart to be able to avoid the almost guaranteed deletion that Scout is able to mete out to any member of JDG who puts themselves in a bubbleable position.
Yeah, but this is what we're talking about. The lane assignments from JD are not on point, and EDG are looking to collapse.
The only member of JDG who could have survived that, the Aatrox stays alive. It gives EDG the chance to move into the tier 2 of their own. They do make the catch on the 2. Ray, and look how much damage they took already. Hook lands on the 2. Harrow able to escape for the time being. JDG even diminished in numbers, refusing to back away from Edward Gaming. And they will be rewarded with holding onto the tower. Mao forced the flash after getting the flay. Coming in from the side will be Flawless. He'll being burned, and across the wall, Scout so low. One more shot will do it from Flawless, and JDG, they get the catch as well, turn it into a second. JDG, they make the defense of their lives and are richly rewarded.
And great call coming through from JD Gaming as well to realize, look, if they can't set up, if they can't poke, oh, hang on, actually, we're not done yet.
Yeah, Zoom enables another play and another kill through for Flawless Harrow. And Mako, there's no tower to hide behind. Nice play. Mako gives up their life. And just like that, in the span of a few moments, JDG almost catch up and they can pick up that standing gold in the mid lane.
And this series isn't over yet, Counterfeit. We've still got a bit of life left in JD Gaming, and that was a fantastic play. You could see Scout and iBoy trying to set up for the play, trying to go, look, we'll get this siege down, we'll get this turret, and against that bottom lane turret, that's exactly the play that you want to go for, but JD Gaming were having none of it. When you see in the replay, yes, Aatrox gets taken out, but he goes back to base and instantly teleports into a very well-placed ward back behind all the vision for EDG. So by the time they realize that they're in trouble, it's far, far too late. Jin is forced out of this fight with when he opens up with the curtain call, but look how many members of this lineup for EDG are low. The teleport completes, you end up with a very angry Aatrox coming back from the dead who wants everything that is put forward by EDG, and Flawless as well. When I was looking at the start of this fight, he was off over on the top side of the map farming Raptors, and I was going to be very annoyed with him if this went south for JD Gaming, but instead he manages to get to the fight just about in time with a pretty decent timing, so they're able to at least secure themselves a few more wins into the back pockets.
I agree. That was something that really stood out to me for Flawless as well at last part. For a good chunk of that early defense, Flawless was nowhere nearby, but yeah, absolutely. The very last possible moment they arrived as Flawless, you can see already attracting so much attention, but I really appreciate the resilience here of JD Gaming to be able to absorb all of that punishment coming out of EDG to stay standing just long enough to lock in that counter punch as the Infernal Drake is up for the taking. Will JDG want to force this one?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where they're trying to go here. You can see EDG are wrapping around, very scared of giving over that top side of the map control to JD Gaming with Baron just spawning, but want to try and get their hands on the Infernal Drake as well. So it's a bit of a catch-22 right now, and JD go, okay, look, if you're going to be awkward about this, we're just going to take both.
Yeah, nice pickup on the Infernal Drake. Of course, Flawless with those 5 kills now in pocket can invest in the early Duskblade, get JDG that vision supremacy around the objectives, which I'm sure they'll make very good use of. Of course, both sides have got that Mountain Drake as well to be able to chew through those objectives all the faster if the fight does swing one way or the other dramatically.
Now we've kind of entered into Baron time, though. This is where we're going to see the Baron dances kick off. And when you look at particularly the changes that have happened to trinket wards and to the amount of the control wards that can be carried, this is where pick comps really come into their own, because you can go in now, set your vision control, but it really is kind of the people who come in second and are able to clear out that vision, have all of the control back in their favor, because you don't have anything left to try and clear out the vision that's put down secondly. So it means that EDG, if they can try and get in or find JD Gaming where they haven't put down some sort of defense to keep these wards in place, might be able to find themselves with some control on Baron. But it is going to be Jingdong Gaming who start this up, and EDG are nowhere to be found.
Yeah, very swift startup there. You can see the vision in the jungle completely across to Jendong's side of things. And just shy of 23 minutes, a huge Baron pickup, which is going to actually extend the lead and allow for maybe some pushes towards the remaining Tier 2 towers of Edward Gaming.
And this is really smart play from them. They're just going, look, EDG are not in a position. They're too slow to the play. We know how fast we can do it because we've got so much damage on our side, and they can pick it up before EDG even have an opportunity to blink. Now you can see, look, Voy, yes, he was behind, but he's starting to get towards, he's got his 2 items. The 3rd item will be coming in just a little bit as well. So no longer are we looking at these big deficits for the side of JD Gaming. Instead, EDG are kind of the ones that are on the back foot now.
Yeah, really impressive stuff, especially to adapt to a strategy that works so incredibly well for Edward Gaming the first time around. Good spread as well from Jendong to put that Baron buff in all 3 different lanes. Gold to go after. Edward Gaming doing a pretty good job of clearing out even the Baron up minions, though.
Yeah, they've got a decent amount of wave clear on their side, so should be able to deal with some of it effectively. The real problems, though, are these split pushers. You can see Flawless and Zoom are both just part of the entourage of these minion waves at the moment, for just pushing them in towards the towers, making sure that they're able to deal the damage that they want, whereas the remaining 3 members actually might have found themselves in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, we see Yagao taking so much damage from that Pal Star. Wasn't even empowered by the bubble there. I do like that Yagao has got that Banshee's Veil to try and avoid that sort of situation happening, as Flawless dodges out what could have easily been the end of their life and an 800 gold kill streak. Pressure still on all 3 lanes. Zoom, even without all the kills, still feels like a massive part of why Jendong are ahead.
Well, I mean, he mightn't have a huge amount of kills. Actually, I'm going to hold on to that point because Mel's been caught out.
And now it's getting caught out and deleted so quickly. The Cotton Call comes through in from the side. Will be Zoom finally joining the rest of the team. Health bars on Edward looking low, but surely JDG can't take the fight when they are down in numbers. Being chased away, but the Baron buff is still there. So kept at bay for the time being. Edward, hold on and don't lose any further territory.
And this is the issue now, is that without a tanky jungler or someone at least that can push forward and try and be the front line for the 3 members of JD Gaming, they're in a bit of a pickle when it tries to sieging up on these turrets. You really need the side lane pressure to be in your favor, but Zoom can't dive in on that inhibitor turret, and you most certainly can't have Flawless try and take that tier 2 tower in the top lane by himself. So they're in a little bit of a stalemate, and that becomes a big issue when you can see on the screen 23 seconds until that Baron buff times out.
That's true. It seems like a bit of a well-contained push from the side of JDG. We have got another Mountain Drake coming up shortly, and wow, let's see, as soon as JDG get a chance to hit that tower, it goes down so quickly. But Edward Gaming doing a fantastic job of holding on, much as JDG did in the top lane themselves.
Yeah, I think the speaking of the top lanes is Ray not having a stellar performance. He's, 60 CS behind Zoom. He's 4 kills, given over 4 kills. And that's why we're seeing the big discrepancy between these two, is that the Aatrox is just miles ahead of his counterpart, and there's no real way for them to try and get back. Ray is just desperately trying to clear waves and then run away from this Aatrox before he can even touch him.
Boy, almost getting caught out. You mentioned the pick. Certainly present for both teams, but it feels like Edward Gaming really strongly trying to look for that one member to be taken out, give them a numbers advantage before they make their major play.
I do agree, but I also feel JD are kind of just sitting on their haunches. When you get an advantage like this, you want to be able to push it forward, get vision control, get something in your favor so you can actually make the plays happen. Instead, if I look at that map, I see a hell of a lot of blue wards, not a particularly high amount of red wards, and Flawless is still trying to play this death push style. That's not what you do when you're ahead. You should be the ones controlling the pace of game, controlling where the vision of the enemy or the enemy team is in that jungle. But instead, they're just trying to. They don't feel like they have a game plan. They're just kind of like, okay, well, hopefully this works.
Oh, it's true. It definitely comes across that way to me as well. I guess, at this point in the previous game, it was pretty much done in Edward Gaming's favor. So I suppose, while Gendon Gaming have had the chance to learn and adapt to what Edward Gaming are bringing out to at least avoid the game just playing out the same way, we've yet to see, if JDG have got any way of closing this one out, or if they're just planning on stacking up more and more items on Zoom while the rest of the team catches up.
We are very shortly, though, going to see Baron number 2 spawn, and that's why we're looking at a lot of the JD members moving in towards this area, try and clear out the vision that EDG have. But again, it is a pretty difficult task particularly when you're looking at the likes of Scout, who can hop over one of these balls, and if he connects onto Bavoy or to Yagao, it's suddenly a big team fight win for EDG. So they do have to be careful pushing in, and this is why I was talking about getting that vision control down. If you already have this control, it's much easier to keep it rather than trying to now force EDG out of this river and wrestle it back for yourself.
While this is going on, though, JDG's Zoom down in the bottom lane has been working on opening up this bottom side inhibitor for a while. I think we'll finally manage to do it. And EDG, they may have got outmaneuvered here. Apparently, if Edward Gaming's plans don't play out perfectly, they can be outmaneuvered as Zoom will tear through the inhibitors. Not too much of anything Ray can do about this. And now the Super Minions will come a-knocking on the opposite side of the map from this Baron.
That was a big misplay by Ray. He swapped over his teleport for the smite, and it meant that he didn't have the teleport available for when this Baron dance essentially started kicking off. I was going to say fiasco, but I felt that was a little bit of a harsh word. But when this Baron dance kicked off, because it meant that he couldn't get across. It meant that he had to wander away from that bottom lane because he didn't have that teleport available, and Zoom just capitalized on it. It was easy as you like. Great. You're not here to defend. 3 hits, that's a turret. Now I've got your inhib as well because you can't defend against me. And it's JD Gaming, as you're saying, outmaneuvering, outpacing, and outmacroing this EDG lineup.
The Super Minions are starting to apply that pressure. Nice catch out onto Flawless for the Curtain who comes out early, looking to try and divide EDG from their prize. So that defensive Curtain Call won't stop. Nice hit onto Mao as well. JD take a lot of damage around the Baron, but I have to wonder, will the Super Minions do enough to draw EDG away?
They definitely will. I mean, you've got 2 Super Minions now in that wave, which means they can start taking those Nexus turrets, and that should be the go signal once you see Ray down in the spot lane to start pressuring this Baron. You can see Kha'Zix hops over the wall. He wants to take a part in this. Oh, actually, good land onto
catch
Caitlyn.
Onto iBoy. That's what we've been waiting for all series long. Unfortunately, for JG, weren't able to follow up with anything more, but Gao off to the side, waiting. We know the Curtain Call is down. The Scat of the Week doesn't find anybody. Now waiting with that hook ready, looking for the opportunity. The Super Minions will keep on pushing through the bottom lane for now. JDG, they've got 2 Mountain Drakes ready. They could go through this Baron so quickly. EG can't afford to give them a moment.
Just as you say it, they actually do decide to start it up, but this is because they've moved Ray over. Ray's actually swapped the teleport over to the heel. They are looking to draw the fight out of JD Gaming.
Just like that, though, the Baron gets abandoned and will regen. Zoom going to body block to make sure no bubble trouble comes their way. And this might open the door for Gendon to go straight back onto the Baron. You can see the Super Minions in the base, and EDG, they've gone from full commit to defend this Baron to suddenly giving it across to JDG for free. Number 2 Baron at 32 minutes.
I'm so confused by the decision making around this Baron by EDG. There was no reason for Ray to leave that bot lane. He was able to just stay there. You had his teleport available, and you were fine. You had the vision control. You have a good amount of poke that can keep the Jing Dong Gaming off of that Baron, even if they tried to start it up. You were in no pressure to try and force anything there. Instead, EDG try and make the play happen, try to end the game right there, and it backfires massively.
EG, it's feeling like they are completely in tatters here. We saw there, Flawless by themselves went to that Infernal Drake, and 3 members of EDG backed off, presumably assuming that the rest of Gen Dog were coming. But now everything going across to JDG. Off the song sheet, EDG look so much less confident.
Yeah, I don't know what to say at this stage. I was coming in thinking that, EDG were going to be the team here. They were going to just play so much better than this, but instead they're making weird macro decisions. They haven't really been able to push the lead forward as effectively as they did in game 1, and now it's the rest of Jingdong Gaming who are putting pressure on the EDG base.
Super minions still coming from the bottom side. The Baron Dart minions providing the window of opportunity for Gen Dong to get some tower damage down. It is drawing away members of EDG who just do not seem to have enough answers to go after all these minions. And Inhibitor open up in the bottom as well. This could be the beginning of the end. Look how quickly Mako gets torn to pieces. Inhibitor number 3 opened up by JTG, defying the odds, charging into the base. Ray forced to jump away at speed, but the minions are pouring in. JDG, they could have salvaged this series and the Demacia Championship for themselves. Inhibitors gonna be torn up. JDG investing in the insurance policy, but I don't think it's gonna be needed to get the catch onto Harrow. Will be forced to use those invincibility, but there goes the Nexus. Look at those minions pouring in from every side, and JDG put on a masterclass.
It was a very rough early game, and there is a lot to go back and look at, though. But they did manage to eke their way back into this game slowly but surely. And I was just punishing what EDG were not able to. Punishing that EDG were not able to push the advantages that they got with that Caitlyn forward as effectively as they would have liked. And now we are going to be pushing on towards a game 3. And I'm not going to lie, I have no idea what way this series is going.
I'm fascinated to see what this is, because we've seen the evolution of the strategy. Emma Gaming, they had a very set strategy. It works incredibly well for them in game 1. In game 2, apparently the coaching staff of Gendong Gaming, they knew exactly what they needed to do to throw a spanner in the Reds. So I guess, well, Gosu, do we see another attempt at that from EDG in game 3, do you think? Or do they have to go for something entirely different?
I think you do go with the same. Like, the Caitlyn pick is working fantastically. Why change it? I think it's the other 2 lanes that you really have to look at and go, okay, how do we make sure that we're getting the advantages here? And that's what I'll be looking for as we move into game 3.
All right, guys, we need to know what's happened, and the only people who can tell us are our analyst desks. So, guys, let us know, how did game 2 happen that way?
Thank you very much, Peter. We are the analyst desk. We have got all the info to let you know what's been going on. First of all, there was a massive pause. Then JDG broke all our hearts if we were wanting to get to bed early and took us to game 3. Louis has been broken.
I mean, they did what we told them to do. Let's be real. They got themselves in Thresh bot lane. Didn't end there. Got the Syndra and Aatrox as playmakers. Got Flawless on a very comfortable Kha'Zix, and he just ran circles around the map. Got Zoom ahead. Zoom kind of went out of control and was just unstoppable in the side lane. And well, the one way you beat Poke is just with a side lane push, and they just hadn't, like, basically both teams played a low inevitability comp where they had like a lot of skill shots that could lead into picks. And to be fair, like, EDG was safer in that, but just due to the fact that the Aatrox just was so much more dominant in the side lane, all of the time they wasted on just throwing out skill shots and seeing if something sticks, Zoom just took over the game completely.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just like complete changeover from game one. Returned, I think I heard you mentioning how Kha'Zix is this jungler who seems to be coming in having massive impact in every game.
Yeah, I mean, now Kha'Zix not only has 100% win rate, but honestly 100% just carry rate at this point. You got to start wondering whether he should be moving up or down the priority list for sure. But this game for me really rings very naturally of just overconfidence on the side of EDG. Like up until that pause, up until the kill started flying over in the mid lane, it was looking pretty good for EDG. Once again, bot lane got a lead. Sure, you did give something over to the Kha'Zix, but everyone was kind of hanging on. And then, after we came back, I don't know whether there's a mental reset from Jindong or EDG is kind of being like, all right, guys, let's just get this over with. Just kept making mistake after mistake. Ray had an absolutely terrible game in the top lane after that. And then once the Aatrox starts picking off, once you have the Kha'Zix, who is just an absolute monster and can lock down Scout. And speaking of Scout, he didn't have that fantastic of a game either after the midpoint, and just everything started falling apart. And you need someone to really start taking those reins from EDG if you want to win like that.
We talked about the mid lane matchup being our feature matchup, and in the end, you're right. Scout just did not perform in the way that maybe we've come to expect of him. So when we go into game 3, which is now definitely going to happen with one of these teams getting the opportunity to keep progressing, the other one going home, is it just a case of EDG need to step back up again and be the team that they were in game 1, or do they actually need to find a way to really stop JDG?
I think Jindong has shown us more than they did in game 1. They've looked a bit more like they were in Top Sport against Top Sports, and I feel like both teams are kind of online now. So EDG definitely needs to bring their A game right now. Maybe get. I mean, just get the bot lane on a bad matchup again. It could be an option, or just get a heavily winning jungle matchup somehow.
Yeah,
is what I would look at.
Your thoughts?
I don't know whether it's the exhaustion talking, but I'm just gonna get straight to the point. And either Ray or Haru just need to start showing up. Like Ray going 0-4 is just absolutely unacceptable at that point. Like going down that far, sure, there was definitely a lot of jungle interference, but you need to be able to at least go a lot more even or have an impact in the matchup. Or Haru needs to be able to handle flawless in some way, shape, or form. Ibai and Scat have been doing decent, if not exceptional from time to time, and something's really got to get shored up there going in now to what's going to be the final game.
Lou, you came across with a point before game 1 began about how these two teams have this massive history. They have a tendency to knock each other out of tournaments or to really put each other back through the regular split. Who do you think maybe is going to come to this game strongest? Is the momentum now with JDG or EDG? Do they have that pedigree of going to international tournaments, know that they can come up strong and take this game 3?
That's a big question. I feel like EDG overall still has the same team. They've been through hardship, and they should have the veterancy here. But Jindong is really hungry right now. They want to prove that this lineup can go further, can maybe go to at least Worlds, if not even win the title in the LPL itself and go to MSI or something.
So with only one game left and only a small break before we come back for that game 3, I'm going to ask you one final question, guys. You both called EDG along with myself in the predictions before game 1. Does anyone want to jump ship now?
No, I think they're going to figure out a top lane that's not named Urgot. I think they're going to do much better. So, fingers crossed. I think EDG will still pull out in the end.
How about you, Louis?
No.
Short.
I'll just keep it at that.
Just like you, buddy. And no, I'm going to be with you as well. I'm sticking to my guns, and we're either all going to be right together or all going to be wrong together. If you want to know which of those two it's going to be, you're going to have to tune in and stay around for when we come back after this short break.
Natty man no stopping for them. Shut it down. Baseline I go shot ya boy dead. Shut it down. Full of vibes, no compromise. Make it real. Something for me and the savior. Natty man no stopping for me. I go crave ya. Ill behavior. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. Make it real. Something feeding me and the savior. Natty man no stopping feeding me. I go crave ya. Ill behavior. Bad man, so make you reach up for the laser.
All right, it is time for game 3 of this series between JDG and EDG. Louis, just what have JDG got to do to secure game 3?
I'll play a safe game, get some plays rolling. I feel like they have a decent shot at just sticking it out through the early game, going towards the mid game, getting maybe getting Zoom ahead, hopefully getting Zoom ahead, or just Flawless. I think Flawless is if they get some kills onto him on a decent champion. Of course, get him on a decent champion, but yeah, that's it.
Returned, same question, but in EDG's boots.
All right. Get Mako onto an aggressive playmaker. He's fantastic on the Thresh. I want to see him on the Morg or the Alistair. Something he can impact the map up. But make sure Scout's having a good lane and pray that Ray can hold on.
Brilliant. For the final time, we are passing you over to Peter Counterfeit Hartnell and also to a man. He is known as something.
Yeah, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Game 3 of the losers bracket of the Demacia Winter Cup 2018. This is going to be JD Gaming versus Edward Gaming, and so far
guys,
we've had a little bit
welcome
of a
back
mismatch.
for our third and final game to end out day 1 of the Winter Demacia Championship. Fantastic performance from JDG in that last game as they managed to counteract what worked so well for Edward Gaming in the first game.
Yeah, it worked out really well where they had kind of gotten themselves a lead again, and it started to push forward. iBoy looked like he was in a dominant spot, but I like the swap up that we have coming through now with iBoy going towards the Lucian, get that dominant pick down, and just go, look, we are going to win. It doesn't matter. We're going to have this big mid-game ADC that can take over.
First couple of picks coming through, the Cassiopeia for the side of JDG. And the Aurelia, so a little bit of a mix-up in the top lane. Certainly last time round, they were able to dominate Ray, who will be back on that Urgot pick. The Lucian, which we see getting banned out very, very frequently, will be sneaking through this time round. As Gragas will come in for Flawless, deciding instead to stick away. Oh, there we go. I think hopefully everything should be sorted out. Gosi, you still there?
No? Is this working?
Yeah, there we go. All right.
Great.
Sorry about that, guys. Too much happening all at once. So, all right. Let's pick things up to the halfway through point. So, from the EDG side of things, looks like they're bringing back their Urgot into the top lane, but picking up their bottom lane early.
Yeah, they have him picking up the bottom lane early. I like the Lucian, get iBoy onto something that's a little bit more powerful and can really be that mid-game, just take over the game AD carry that I think iBoy really deserves. He's been kind of looking at that Caitlyn, but it just comes online so much later that he can't have the impact that he really wants to. But hopefully this time around, especially with Mako on that playmaking Rakan, they can make matters even worse for the bottom lane of JD Gaming. But I think across the board now, JD Gaming have picked up a really strong lineup. Cassiopeia, incredibly strong mage on this patch. You've got the Aurelia there as well. And Gragas, who Flawless had anything but a flawless performance on in that first game, but will be looking to turn that around.
It's certainly a very, very solid pick. We've seen it in other leagues as well, doing a lot of success. So we'll have to see what we're going to have EDG in the jungle pick. They were certainly teasing us with a few different options here, but we know from nearly every other game we've been seeing in the Demacia Championship so far how important those junglers are, especially early on.
I was expecting them to have a little bit more of an impact, though. I nearly feel like it's been a case of a kind of bit of a gentleman's agreement where, or at least a little bit of a gentleman's controlling the other one, because they haven't really had much way in the way of ganks, in the much of getting into the mid lane, trying to affect that lane. And we saw a little bit of action in that top lane, the last one, but it really has been more of a case of, okay, can I get the wards down and stop the enemy jungler from having an impact, more than can I have a greater impact than the enemy jungler, and being proactive in that respect. So we'll see how this one starts to play out. I'm hoping, especially with Harrow on this Lee Sin, that we do see him go for a more proactive style, trying to get a few more kills under the belt, particularly if I'm looking at iBoy and Mako in this one. That is a prime target for a gank from a Lee Sin.
Oh yeah, we know how messy things can get early on with the Lee Sin pick, as we get the LeBlanc locked in for Scout, so we've got the explosive power of the mid lane. But if we look back at the previous game, so where JDG found so much success, it feels like a massive part of that was Zoom on the Aatrox. This time round does get banned away, now across to the Aurelia. Gosu, do you think Zoom can be as influential?
Oh, 100%. Aurelia is the champion for trying to go for the 1v1 plays in the top lane. Maybe Jace would be the other one that I'd look at, but especially up against the Urgot, we saw how well that Zoom could play around that matchup on the Aatrox. I don't see why he can't do the same thing on this Aurelia, particularly when you kind of expect Raid to go back towards the Urgot once again. I think you've set yourself up now for, again, a nice strong split pushing role. The biggest question, though, is how do we match up in the bottom lane? The Varus is a pick that we saw slide out of the meta just because of the changes to the Guinsus. He doesn't really get that same oomph that he would have beforehand. And I'm a bit worried now that Bavoy, they're just putting him on utility because we're like, look, you're not going to win this lane. Stick you on something that could be a little bit safer. But Varus is not really safe against the lane that EDG are putting down. A Lucian and a Rakan will make your day an absolute living hell as a Varus.
That's true. We're going to be leaning pretty darn heavily on Mao on that Tam Kench to give Bavoy a nice place to hide inside his stomach. But you're right. Once that engage comes in, if it lands onto Mao, then there's not going to be any way out.
And I think as well, when you've got the support there from such a strong execution jungler as Lee Sin, you really are in a lot of danger. Alongside a LeBlanc as well, who is just capable of deleting pretty much whatever, words are hard and fractions are even tougher, but 3 out of 5 members of that team are definitely in danger of being on the business end of either the Shackles or on the Sigil of Malice as well.
All right, let's get on to the Rift for the last time today. This game will determine which one of these two teams goes through to day number 2. JDG, no one would come out in support of them. Even the analyst desk, after that Game 2 performance, still refused to believe. Personally speaking, I'd love to see a surprise upset here from JDG just because of how unlikely it seems. But Gosu, you're the last person. What do you think?
I actually don't know. And I think the biggest factor for me is more the crushing defeat that it will be to see the EDG dynasty that had held so strong in LPL for so many years to now be kicked out of the Demacia Cup on day 1. It really would just put home how far this team has fallen from grace. And I think that would be just such a shame for, at least for the Chinese fans, to see that happen.
Weber Gaming made it to 4th last time they took part in the Demacia Cup. So you're right, it would be an incredibly shocking upset. But recently, JD Gaming have been doing pretty well for themselves. They managed to get some good results against a lot of the strong teams playing here today. So as much as they are very, very much a dark horse candidate for this tournament, I still think there's a possibility that we might see another surprise. Certainly by the end of that last game, Edward Gaming were playing incredibly scared.
Yeah, and I think scared is the right word. And it was just because Zoom was just taking over the game. They had no way of dealing with him. Ray was so far behind the Urgot that he was essentially a glorified cannon minion. But we're seeing now, same again in this bottom lane, EDG hit that level 2, instantly go aggressive, and are trying to push Bavoy and Mao out of this lane.
Mao did try and regress in return, as we can see up on the top side. Vision has become a issue as flawless. Into the jungle will be found by Ray. will be pushed away from that blue buff. EDG trying to get a little bit of their early aggression down. Does mean that Zoom gets some quality time all by themselves. And of course, without a smite, Ray can't really secure the buff for themselves.
They can't, but it does mean that you're just putting the pressure onto Flawless, whereas when we're looking across at Harrow, he's been completely untouched, now has the camps completed that he can go towards that level 3, looking at a pretty low health Cassiopeia in this mid lane as well. We'll have to be careful of the barrier though.
Early flash comes out, and of course, Flawless is there instantaneously to make sure that nothing further goes through. Still, Yagao took a lot of damage, has burnt through both those summers, including the barrier you mentioned before. Scout the same, but Harrow still has that flash if they need to make the play.
They really do, and Harrow can just revisit this lane. Scout is way more mobile than the Cassiopeia, so this is just going to be a case of, will we now see these junglers actually start to go for these proactive plays? Harrow should be the one revisiting that lane, and it will be on Flawless to try and be the gatekeeper and avoid this Lee Sin finding his way towards the snake.
The AD carries being left by themselves as their counterparts trade really heavily down the bottom side. Worth noting that Bavoy has got a lethal tempo, so very strong trading power when that's up. Of course, with Mako there, it's going to be incredibly hard to avoid just getting CC'd for days.
It's also iBoy's forced the summoner spell out of Bavoy now, so he will have the heal actually, which will be needed as Flawless has made his way in.
Quick reactions from Harrow, though, immediately, as the flash brings both members of JDG to safety. So a lot of mirroring going on for the junglers in this game. They seem to be exactly where each other's ganks are going to be coming from.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised. I mean, you can pretty clearly find out where Harrow wants to go.
There's the engage. iBoy is very, very low, but so is the first blood going across onto Mako, looking for the trade back. But Mao is solo, will have to pop that grey health. No, doesn't have it available. And that's 2 kills now to EDG.
Double kill over to the Rakan, and it's not exactly the member that you wanted to go towards, but again, it's EDG solidifying their win in the bottom lane, and this time around it is with Harrow's help. So getting a little bit of jungle intervention has made all the difference, but it will put iBoy ahead again. And we already said it, Bavoy, yes, he's on the Varus. Yes, he'll be a little bit more of utility, but still needs to be very careful of how quickly he can be burnt out from the damage with iBoy and Mako.
Let's have a look how it all played out. The junglers mirror each other for such a long time, but the engage was crazy good.
Yeah, very smart play, realizing that they can burst through this. Gragas pick, Mao doesn't have the mana available to go for the Devour, and it's just reading what JD Gaming want to go for and completely counteracting that game plan.
And I guess we also got to see the contrast there between iBoy's Lucian and Bavoy's Varus. iBoy able to just dash away at the last part, making it really hard for JDD to finish off the job as close as they did get.
Yeah, we will see a pause coming in very briefly now, but I think overall, there's the potential for this to snowball a little bit more heavily in EDG's favor. When you've got the Lucian, you don't really need to wait for your items. You can just go for these early aggressive fights, particularly when you got a Mountain Drake on that bottom side as well. Haru can start that up, and they can try and turn either onto the Varus, who now has no summoners available, or just end up picking that one up for themselves, which means that, again, you're going to start to see, like the likes of, Urgot have a little bit of a better time against this Aurelia when he's left alone with those turrets, if he can take 1 or 2 pop shots at it, maybe give him a little bit of an advantage in that top lane. When it comes to the gold that he can pick up from the armor plating, there's very small issues here that could start to cause issues for Jin Dong. But again, we saw how difficult it was for EDG to actually close out this game. So it doesn't matter if EDG are getting these early advantages if they're not going to be able to bring them anywhere in the later stages of the game.
700 gold ahead for the timing. As you said, Mako the main beneficiary of that extra gold. So not ideal, but something I wanted to hit up with you before we kind of get to the point in the game where it's really going to become relevant. Wait a second. As Reagan caught out nice use of the Vanguard's edge, which means they cannot get away, forces out the flash, and Zoom dances away. Even with both junglers nearby, the trade is over before either of them can intervene.
Yeah, we said it before. The waltz that is these junglers continues across the map. Now find their way in the top side, and this is just going to continue as Flawless and Harrow pretty much are going the exact same camps and have the exact same one spawning at pretty much the same time. You can see one camp a piece on the top side, then we'll go for our bottom lane buff, and then we'll probably gank bot lane again. And it has just become this dance back and forth where it will be a case of who managed to stumble with the 2 left feet first.
Well, this certainly opens up the importance of the warding in the jungle. We can see from JDG, they've got a ward up on the top Krug camp. It feels like if either of their team could just bring their jungler to lane, to an unexpected lane, or just, a few seconds earlier than the opposing one, they've got the opportunity to be able to fling the game back in their favor in the terms of JDG, or for EDG to actually get a lead that will stick.
And that's why I'm kind of surprised that they aren't taking the advantages that EDG have garnered for themselves and trying to force a lead. We were talking already about Yagao having both those summoner spells burned in the mid lane, and we never saw a repeat gank from Harrow. They decided, you know what, instead, we're just going to wait until the flash comes back up and put all of our pressure on that bottom side of the map instead. And it's kind of choices like this where you have these small little advantages that you could start to press forward. But again, EDG just seem to be missing the mark.
Up in the top side, the trading going very heavily in favor of Zoomers. We just saw a little exchange there. Ray, without any summoners to their name at all, we're very glad to have that unsealed spell book. Has actually bought a cull up in that top lane. I think perhaps, unlike before, where we saw it used to extend an advantage, in this case, an admission that there won't be too much gain for Ray, at least in the early going.
But they will end up gaining on the bottom side of the map. He said already, with that Mountain Drake there, you've got your advantages on the Lucian. Now you can start to put a little bit of pressure, but it's going to be a case of can they convert that into actual damage onto objectives like these turrets that are still standing. You can see with Lucian, a little bit more difficult to try and push forward onto that tier 1 turret because of Varus, of course, will have that piercing arrow to clear out the wave. So you've got to try and make these big coordinated plays that we used to see out of EDG in years gone by. They were known as the team that would go make those side lane ganks, go for the dives in the turret, but we haven't seen that from them this tournament, and it's really been making it hard for them to put down and get the pressure that they really want exerted on the map.
Well, pressure, I think, will be not in short supply as nearly the entirety of JD turn up into the top lane, blow up Ray, and then walk this one away, moving the bot lane up to the top. Will force that same reaction from EDG, but it's JDG who are able to get a hold of all that tower placing. Nice maneuver. And again, just like in game number 2, outmaneuvered.
And this is the thing, it's now JD who are the ones who are going aggressive. They got the kill, now they're getting a good amount of damage on this turret. Haru can't really do particularly much, although Scout looks like he may want to.
Caught by the miasma, very nicely done, avoided the petrifying gaze, while on the top side, we have got the culling coming down, very close to taking out Bavoy. But still, at the end of all this, JDG ahead on goal. They more or less got what they wanted, and they managed to avoid any kind of punishment, at least as of yet.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to just back away now in a mutual agreement to go, look, we'll take what we can get. And if you're JD, you got to be fairly happy with that. I mean, you've managed to force Scout out of the fight. You've got 3 of the armor platings there. So that's a good amount of gold that's been split between your team. And particularly when you're looking at Bavoy, who was far behind Eyeboy, but with the extra bit of gold that he will have picked up there, will be relatively even with the Lucian, which is a very different scenario from what we've had previously.
And before this is what the point I was trying to hit on before we were rudely interrupted by another massive play from JDG. What we saw at the at the beginning of that fight, Yagao, that miasma, it feels like it's such a great answer to so much of the playmaking potential of Epic Gaming.
I would 100%, but it was also a really odd route for a Scout to take. I feel like you just come through the Tribush there and there's no miasma to really try and deal with. You can blow up the members of JD that were fairly well grouped and all fairly low, but instead he just kind of walks into Yagao and goes, oh, I don't want to be here, and forced to just scatter to the winds as the second he realizes that he's found Cassiopeia. But Bavoy now is the one that's finding himself aggressed on alongside Haru coming up into this top lane. So you can see Haru is now firmly planted himself as the additional support member for iBoy. They want to get this Lucian rolling.
Will have access to the Rift Herald. Has been a very good sign for the teams who've managed to grab it, as Ray avoids getting it stunned up there. So EDG looking to try and make some kind of proactive play. Flawless is off to the side to equalize numbers as the the top lane is Tango in the bot lane, and the mid lane is try and vie for supremacy themselves. Neither of the mid lane turrets have any of their plating stripped off at all as of yet. And I can't imagine either team are eager to leave them open for too long.
No, and just as we're starting to come up into the 15-minute mark, I kind of want to look at where we actually stand in this game, because one of the things that's kind of has been hard to place in this series is because of how far behind Bavoy has fallen, is where we actually sit if these two teams match up evenly. And I think I really like the composition that Jindong Gaming have in this. They've got an awful lot of just disengaged tools on the 4 members that are left if you look at like a 1-4 split push. Flawless has the cask, you've got the ultimate from Yagao as well, and Bavoy has those chains of corruptions, and even just in case someone else manages to get locked up, you've got that Tam Kench to try and get them to safety. And against what EDG are trying to do with a short-range AD carry, heavy engage from either Haru or Mako, they actually have answers pretty much across the board for what they want to do. So in the game 1 and game 2, we saw that EDG were exploiting the advantages they had in the bot lane. Now we're looking at this third game, and it is Zoom who's exploiting the advantages that he has over Ray. 20 CS advantage, an awful lot of damage, and can become that big split push pressure because he knows the rest of his team will be safe with the amount of disengage that they have.
I'm liking what JDG are doing to keep a lid on EDG as well. We've seen EDG, they've spent an inordinate amount of time up in the top side as the play is being made immediately. Mao counteracts it just like that. But yeah, EDG, they keep their resources up in the top side. They're not getting the Rift Herald either, and the culling just being burnt and getting nothing. It may in fact be JDG themselves who are able to move in and secure that big objective. First tower gold still up for grabs for either side.
Yeah, iBoy deciding, it's Christmas. We need a few fairy lights up in the top lane as he lets his culling go out into the middle of nowhere, but not able to get that pressure down. And that's kind of been the story of this game, is Jingdong Gaming not falling behind as they should. Mauve, though, forced to gobble up Bavoy.
It's got to be frustrating to have, these big engaged ultimates just counteracted by a standard ability. Certainly puts you back in the old days when people used to QSS away Trundle ultimates and the like. But so far, it does not feel like EDG have managed to solve the problem of how you get past Mao. And Mao just seems to be the get out of jail free card for JDG.
And that's literally all Tam Kench is designed to do, is that get out of jail free card. And when they haven't really got they have the heavy form engaged through Mako, but everything else is kind of a little bit more situational. Is Haru able to get that insect play onto the right member? And if it's just Mako that they have to worry about, well, that makes Mao's job easiest. It's just a case of wander up, devour whoever is the one in the most amount of danger, or, your team member that you most want to keep alive. In this case, as we're seeing, it's Bavoy every single time. And these big engages that we'd be expecting from EDG haven't really found home.
It's the kind of thing which I'm wondering if we might see here, though. If EDG managed to figure out the way past this, is, do we start to see EDG making engages onto Mao themselves?
Definitely could. It's just that this is going to be a very tanky Tam Kench. Do you really want to blow all of Scout's cooldowns, all of iBoy's cooldowns, and Haru's as well to try and get through the double health bar that is Mao? I think you then end up losing the fight anyway, because you've just committed so much towards this Tam Kench, and that's really where that catch-22 comes into it, and why Tam Kench can be such a nuisance. But we will probably see a fight over this Rift Herald for the moment anyway.
Not sure who got the Herald there, but Mao does get caught out. Teleport being channeled in immediately as Zoom comes in from the side. Oh! Vanguard's Edge looking for the resets. We'll get the trade across of one. Hero has been taken out, as has Mako. Boy takes out Haru. But Yagao being chased out of the back of the fight. B-Boy doesn't want to get in on this, as Yagao does a very good job using that barrier to even 1 versus 3. Finally falls down, but the arrow almost trades the kill back across. Flawless escaping out the side of the fight.
And it was just a very sloppy play from Jingdong Gaming, not really able to find any sort of front line or any way of kiting back in those fights, which, as we said before, is exactly how this composition wants to play out. On the good news, though, as Zoom did teleport in, he managed to grab himself that Rift Herald, so they will have that to try and make future plays. But you can see here, Jingdong Gaming want to be able to kite back and never want to be caught with several members in the one spot, and that's exactly what happened. You can see that it's Bavoy, Flawless, all being caught up in the one area, which means Mao now has to make the tough choice of who does he really save. And as well, Yagao coming in from a different direction. This separated lineup is not how JD want to try and play these fights, because then they can't use just that barrage of disengage ultimates to keep themselves safe. And it means that with all these different fights and too many avenues to try and navigate their way through, JD end up falling flat in that team fight.
Yeah, I think, particularly as well with Ray coming in from the side, it felt like Zoom had so much of their attention put across to trying to, salvage the team fight by themselves. They weren't able to spot Ray coming in from the side. That fear beyond death, such a great finishing tool, which can never be discounted, no matter how far behind Ray might happen to get.
And it's not even just the fact that it assassinates the target. It's that big AoE fear after as well that you can see there, flashing in just to try and connect onto several members. And that can really change the tide of a fight in its entirety. You either save someone, or it just gives you that little bit of extra catching power and sticking power to finish off multiple members. And now you can see, even though it's EDG who were the ones that were in good shape, with the pressure that Jingdong have managed to afford themselves in the mid lane, they have felt comfortable enough to pop this Rift Herald.
The mid tower down to half health, almost taken out in a single shot. Nice petrifying gaze lands, and with the follow-up with the Vanguard's Edge looking for the target, G-Boy gets taken down and torn to pieces. Ray now being chased down. The Bissell Voyage comes in from behind. Ray cannot escape. JDG are going to run that Herald right into the tier 2 as well. Recalling on the backside is Mako. Nothing to be done. I wonder if we might even be looking at a push on the inhib.
We most certainly could be, and that's the power, though, of this Jingdong Gaming composition. When we're all facing the one direction and we can kite back, it's nigh impossible for EDG to get in and try and take these fights. They have cracked open the base of EDG, and what a way for JD Gaming to come back into this.
I love that EDG tried to make the engage when the Herald charged, but it just didn't work. That petrifying gaze was insane, especially when comboed with the Vanguard's Edge.
And that's exactly it. That petrifying gaze means that the rest of EDG can't follow up. Haru had a great flank, but he's left completely on his own, so everyone on JD Gaming can turn and deal with them, and then it's just a follow-up to kick the rest of EDG back to the base. And fantastic play from them, and finally looking at how their composition actually plays and making sure they're playing towards that strength.
And one of the points I really loved about that last one was, we talked about iBoy in those earlier fights was able to dash away from trouble. The Vanguard's Edge, such an amazing ability, because the Lucian just doesn't have a way of getting past it.
And that's the issue here, is the short range AD carry. Although Lucian is considered one of the best ADCs on this patch, he does come with his drawbacks, and it's that short range that really is hindering him in this scenario. Can try and push past Zoom or Flawless to really get onto Bavoy or Yagao, and it also means that he's in range consistently of all these different CCs and AoEs between the petrifying gaze, the casts. You saw the Vanguard's Edge there as well was able to connect onto him. It just makes these team fights so much more difficult to try and run through.
And we can see Zoom, definitely the clear powerhouse of JDG in that second game, has now more or less come online. Maybe getting a little bit too cocky there, as will be caught out as the rest of the team. A big collapse from EDG, but it looks like JDG are going to use the objective-taking power of the Cassiopeia to force out a Baron in response.
And that's the call here. That's exactly what they should be doing. You've got that Blade of the Rune King onto the Varus as well. They will just tear through this, but it's quite fast enough. We're only 21.5 minutes in. They can't finish that off.
but maybe EDG can. This could be a disaster for JDG if they give across that major objective. Miasma blocking off, and there's the catch. Harrow gets torn to pieces. There's no more smite in play. The fear beyond death gets cancelled out as Ray is chased into the back of the pit, and Flawless gets away. The Baron does go to EDG, but the fight will not. Flawless finishes off the job, and there's the fight in the pit for potentially turning the game around. iBoy saved, but the last possible moment. But iBoy, no, coming in for the back. Pavoy themselves chased away, and it looks so good, but ultimately it's Baron and the fight for EDG.
No, they overstayed their welcome at that Baron pit. JD Gaming couldn't pick up the win, couldn't pick up the Baron because Flawless was forced out of the pit early, and it just crumbles in between their fingers. We just praised them for how well they played these team fights, but instead now they opt into a 4v5 and pay the biggest price. Baron going over, the team fight loss, and it looked so good at the beginning here where they managed to pick off Haru, but with all of those disengaged tools committed as a pick instead of to keep the backline safe, it means that Ray is forced or is able to move forward. iBoy can move forward as well. And it just, with everyone locked down in the pit, there's nothing that they can do.
All the AoE spent. Ray just about, almost just about to survive. But yeah, iBoy making it through that whole fight unscathed, just able to do such great cleanup duty. And the painfulness, I don't know if Zoom could have teleported into that one, did respawn towards the end of the fight, but you're right, JDG, they chose the fight when there was still a long time left on that death timer.
Now we got to see how EDG wants to try and push this game forward. This is the best time for them to try and put these plays down. We already kind of said, look, the short range of iBoy is going to hinder them when they try and go towards these turrets, but when you got that Baron, that's the time to really start to put the pressure down. Ray has decided to join with the rest of the team. They don't want to try and deal with the split push and roll anymore. They just want to take the team fight and take this Baron towards the turrets.
iBoy starting to emerge into their final form, now with a very similar scoreline to the hyper carry. Zoom has got the Blade of the Ruined King and the Black Cleaver completed. Going to become a major problem. And EDG already turning it dies towards another objective. They've now got 2 clouds and a mountain secured, even while still a little behind in gold.
Yeah, that's going to change very quickly, though. There was so much standing gold on the map for them. That mid lane turret, the bottom lane turret. They are going to now equal up that gold lead, but the big thing is what you were saying, yeah, is that they now have 2 big objectives that they can go towards as we start to go towards the 35-minute mark. They have the Elder Drake, they have the Baron for themselves there as well, and you've got to be so respectful of that as Jindong Gaming because of how they the effective engage that can come through from EDG can really turn a fight so quickly if they have those extra buffs coming through with the Elder Drake.
Something we noticed from the EDG side of things was the big lack of confidence towards the end of that last game, but it feels almost like JDG, with the success they enjoyed earlier on, maybe just got a little too confident themselves, as you said, to take that 4v5 fight, which looked so good for such a long time, but now I think illustrates how quickly this game can swing back the other way with a one wrong decision from either side.
And that's why we're seeing a lot of posturing and a lot of, kind of tit for tat. Let's see what kind of poke we can land before we try and make the play, because both sides are respecting the damage that can come from their counterparts. And that's the thing, like you're looking at Yagao, he's got 2 of his items completed. Same for the Varus. Like these are guys that you now got to start respecting the damage that can come out.
Yeah, that Guinsu is suddenly going to ramp up Bavoy's damage if they can survive long enough in a team fight to get that one done. Let's take a quick whip around as to the completed items. We've got the tankiness of Ray building up with that adaptive helm. We've, of course, got Flawless, has that Zonya's completed as well. Going to be enormously important in the team fights.
I'm trying to figure out just how EDG are going to start to pressure forward, and I think the biggest thing for them right now is trying to see if they can keep control of this Baron that's going to be up now in just over a minute and a half. I think team fighting is definitely the way that EDG want to try and force this game in their favor. you got to try and come in from multiple different avenues. You want Haru flanking on the back line. Same with Scout, trying to keep all these different... Actually, I'm going to hold on for a second as Zoom. It's actually looking like a rat kind of caught in a corner where he's like, no, I'm going to turn on you. And they're just like, no, okay, sorry, we didn't mean it.
I honestly, that would be the same way I think anyone would react to Zoom suddenly posturing. As much as JDG have to be incredibly careful of not making a mistake here. We saw that, just as we were saying before in the previous game, whenever gaming start to doubt themselves, it manifests in some pretty surprising ways. Before they fell back from the Baron when they just had one wave of super minions in the base. They fall back from Zoom with even the possibility that they might have backup.
We were looking there, though, Bavoy not able to get those chains of corruption to land. So if I'm EDG, this is one of the big team fighting ultimates down, one of those big disengage tools down even. So might signal the go ahead for them, but instead it looks like they're kind of going, okay, look, if they don't have that pick tool, we'll all back now. This is a time to reset, try and get our vision control down around the Baron pit, because it's spawning now just in a few seconds, and there are very few wards down in that area.
Vision has been very good for EDG all game long. They've made sure it needs to be is where it needs to be exactly. Though I feel like something which it feels like neither of the teams are really, necessarily playing to, especially JDG, is the idea that they've got an open inhibitor in the mid lane if they just want to walk up and take it, particularly on Zoom's part.
It's a very tough call, though, because you've got a lot of ground to cover, and particularly with how quickly that EDG can take that Baron, you got to be a bit careful. But with Zoom still in the bottom lane, finishing off that tier 2, EDG take that as the go button on this Baron. Jingdong now trying to see if they can make their way in. Teleport comes through, and EDG start to back away.
And not taking any chances as the minions get pushed in towards that second inhibitor tower. But JDG, they burn that teleport, don't get anything, but at least a stay of execution. We know how quickly EDG can burn through. Maybe JDG can catch them on the way out, though.
Yeah, won't be able to find them for the moment, though. But overall, if you're looking at just the raw stats, that is a win for Jingdong Gaming, but you still got to look at what are the potential plays that can come through. Ray does have that teleport still available, although hovering over the ghost at the moment. So they could try and put some pressure down, but I feel it's very difficult for Ray to make that call, simply because Zoom can literally just zoom in and kill him.
So a big question I want to put to you, Gosu, at this point is, do JDG... Oh, wait a second. Actually, we'll have to hold that thought as Zoom almost gets caught. Has to burn through the flash to avoid getting picked. So we're now in the territory that if one more Elemental Drake goes down, Elder Dragon comes online. Do JDG take the Cloud Drake that's there, or do they just leave it up?
I think you leave it up literally just to delay it as long as possible. Because now, if for every minute that Cloud Drake is on the board, EDG cannot go and get the Elder Drake. So if you don't take it for the next 4 minutes, well, then you've essentially waited out almost another Elder Drake out of the whole thing. So I think overall, JDG are just solely focused on this Baron at the moment.
Ray, taking a leaf out of Zoom's book, realizes the teleport has been burned already, so there's no way for JDG to react unless they send someone down to the bottom side, and by the time they do, this tier 2 tower will be a memory.
Yeah, Ray utilizing that teleport advantage that he has to start putting some pressure down. Now you can see Zoom is back in base, which means EDG instantly go for that Baron with that teleport now as well. Zoom is desperately trying to make his way over, but might be too late.
Very nicely played from EDG, but the AoE of JDG can't be denied. Here comes in the ultimate from the Rakan. No steal this time round, goes across to EDG, but the rest of them have to get out of the pit, and they just about manage it.
That was a very close call from EDG. I'm surprised everyone managed to make it out with their life, but that was pretty much prime picking for Jingdong Gaming. If the rest of EDG couldn't make it over that wall. They have so many tools to just keep them in that pit, but Zoom couldn't get over in time to get the Vanguard's edge and start getting off multiple Titanic Hydra procs. Means that it is fully in favor of EDG now. But once again, I say fully in favor, it's so back and forth.
It feels like EDG learned from what worked against them as much as JDG did for themselves. Really nice macro play to pull John then around the map as much as possible, forcing them to make answers to too many questions. Really nice second pickup on the Baron, but for all of that, JDG are still ahead.
They are just about still ahead, but I think at this point in time, we're not really looking at such a small gold lead. I mean, realistically, the items that the members of Jingdong and EDG want have already been completed. Scout has that Rabadon's Death Cap, got that Luden's Echo. You're looking as well at Cassiopeia, who is working up, you don't even really need a Void Staff, maybe to try and get through this Urgot. But overall, you're still in great shape as Jingdong and both the ZDG. So these fights are still going to be so explosive.
I'm really looking for where Yagao's going to be dropping down that miasma to be able to cut up a fight. It feels like we look at such a different fight when EDG can move around as they please.
But that's kind of exactly what they want to be able to do. I mean, Haru wants to find flanks. Scout wants to do the same. If they can control the vision, control how they enter these fights, they're in a much better position. But the problem is that they haven't really had the vision control and haven't been able to force Jingdong back enough that they can try and make those big plays that can seal out this game.
There's tier 2 towers not defensible for Jingdong. Will fall back to the inhibitor tower line. So we're almost at parity. 6 towers apiece, though worth noting again that Edward Gaming have got an exposed mid inhibitor. When this Baron buff push does go down, there's still so much risk in here for Edward, even as strong as they are looking right now.
The final push looks like it has been started, though. EDG putting these little chips down on the inhibitor turrets, trying to use as much of that Baron buff as they can, but with it starting to teeter off and starting to be, again, us kind of waiting for that Baron buff to spawn, I think they might go back and try and take that Cloud Drake. Now working their way in with this minion wave to see what they can do, but Scout has already backed away.
Scout trying to get a little bit poked down while the same in the mid lane, just back and forth. EDG trying to make sure they don't get caught out here, and the inhibitor tower goes down, so that's one exposed inhibitor apiece, and the mid-tier mid inhibitor tower for JDG not looking very healthy as well. A good Baron power play from the EDG side of things, but they've yet to make it really stick.
And this is the big issue now is, we're looking towards that 35-minute mark, and if EDG can't close out this game, they're giving more and more opportunities for JD Gaming to find avenues back into this. And with that mid inhibitor turret already down, that can be a way for them to end the game. You're looking at increasingly long death timers, and it just takes one mistake from EDG for JD Gaming to just take over.
JDG building up. They've got the Guardian Angel on Zoom already, so starting to stack the numbers in the eventual team fight that we know is coming. Also, the Void with a Guardian Angel of their own, to 0 Guardian Angels on EDG's side. A 7 versus 5 situation. It feels like JDG have got the chance to strike now.
Strike while the iron is hot, but do they really have the tools available to make that strike count? You see Zoom starting to come back over and join with the rest of his team again. They were very scared of an all-out engage coming through from EDG. That mid-turret is still incredibly low, but EDG, with that short-range Lucian and with the engage tools that are available for JDG, don't want to try and take that fight home.
Without the Baron buff, EDG's push a lot less hard to resist. So even with all the damage done before, we are back to a standoff between these two. It feels like Yagao, is still building up. And, Bivoy has been somewhat of the target for EDG, at least now, has got the multiple lines of defense to make picking off the AD carry for JDG a lot tougher of a proposition.
This game is feeling very much like, I don't know if you've read it. Have you ever read The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss in that series? So like, you get through the first 2 books and it's a damn good series. And we are still waiting on book 3, and we are still waiting on this game to actually have a climax, because right now it has just become a farming simulator. And I'm kind of waiting for something to kick off, but no one wants to take that first fight.
I mean, I guess it makes sense for JDG. We have got Scout off to the side. I think EDG are building up for a play. With both teams bringing their entire membership to the mid lane, it feels like, we're just waiting on a coin toss here, waiting on those big cooldowns to get burnt. There's the culling. B-Boy getting caught straight away. Mao brings them back across the wall. There's the Vanguard's edge, but they rally right into the middle of the team. Gets the Guardian Angel pop straight away, and JG get nothing for the troubles. Make the play finally, but Ray is standing up with so much health, but caught away from the rest of the team. Forced to dash, flawless, keeps themselves alive. It's Guardian Angels, at least one Guardian Angel being stripped away from JDG. EDG get what they want and don't lose anything, but the health bars are low. This could turn nasty real quickly. There's no super minions as of yet to force either team's hand. So ultimately, the Guardian Angel, a big cooldown, but nothing, again, definitive.
Yeah, but Zoom has teleported back in. That's going to mean they've got someone healthy who can tank up this Baron. EDG now forced to react. LeBlanc is coming back, and Mako is returning from base.
B-Boy dancing around the fight. Low health bars already. Nice miasma to try and keep any further engaged. Surely JDG couldn't have been looking to seriously take that Baron.
I thought they were going to try and take the fight, but instead it looks like they don't want anything to deal with this. Mako has got the ultimate available. Could be looking for the engage, but Lee Sin is actually turned back onto the Baron, so it looks like EDG, who will maybe be able to take the 3rd Baron of this game, but it looks like not even the teams in this game know what's going on anymore.
Just dancing and dancing forever. It feels like if we get into the jungle, the advantage falls to that AoE from JDG as Scout just avoids getting caught. Zoom burns with the shield. There's the insect play coming through, but again, the save from Mao. Harrow down very low, gonna get poisoned, gonna get deleted as Flawless is chased out the back of the fight. Fear Beyond Death takes them, also fears away multiple other members. B-Boy is so low, but Zoom has been put down.
It is a 2-for-1, but both teams lost their junglers, which means both teams are going to go and try and reset. Mao actually has found Scout, but that is one tanky frog at the moment, or catfish anyway, and they won't be able to do much. But EDG have started up the Baron. There's nobody from JD Gaming here to try and stop them, which means they have secured their 3rd Baron of the game, and each time they've received a Baron, they've taken one more layer of turrets. There is only one more layer of turrets left for them, standing in the way of them advancing in the Demacia Cup. So this could be the Baron that seals the game for JD Gaming.
You just saw at the end of that fight, Ray perfectly positioned to cut out any thoughts of response from JDG. She said this could be the last gasp of the JDG side. EG have been doing a fantastic work so far, and as particularly if they can get hold of this Elder Dragon, this is going to be ludicrously huge. You nearly can't get a Elder Dragon more powerful than this. We're looking at about 250 true damage, as well as enhancing their pre-existing Mountain Drake and the 3 Cloud Drakes. I don't think there's any way JDG stand. It's last fight time.
This most certainly could be the last fight. It's a real question of which way will it go, though. JD Gaming do so well in these enclosed corridors, which is why you can see EDG don't really want to fight them when they're in this space. They want open plains, open rivers, open anything, but instead, they're just leaving an open base and an open mouth as once again, everyone is backing away.
Scout getting away from the rest of the fight. JDG now going to be forced to react to the Elder Dragon being taken. It was a fake out to walk away from it as Zoom gets the stun, but the vision has been lost. An attempted steal goes nowhere, and now JDG have to face off against the most terrifying form of EGG possible. Nice use of the Petrifying Gaze, and it will be a trade across. Support for jungler, but the jungler is not going to be needed any longer. Coming in at speed. Look how quickly Ray is going around, because EDG have got their eyes on making it through to the next round. They will smash down one inhibitor, looking for a second and a third. Those death timers are huge. The true damage of the Elder Dragon could be irresistible.
They have finally managed to do it. All inhibs are down. Nexus turrets are falling. Eyeboy throws out the culling. And it is going to be JD Gaming who are falling beneath him.
Miasma drops down. Last chance for JDG to find some kind of miracle as Ray just laughs at them. We're able to walk away from this one. JDG down to that one Nexus tower. Follows up in a second. We'll finally get back to even. There's the Petrifying Gaze landing, but the Nexus has been torn open. EDG finished the job, and despite a heroic defense, JDG have been knocked out of the Demacia Championship.
It turns out that E is a better letter than J when it comes to the DG tournament, and it will be EDG advancing. Jingdong Gaming not quite able to find their stride in this series. It looked like they might have been able to hold off, but EDG eventually, in a very long game 3, close out the series.
Just as the analysts were saying, I have to think the experience of EDG eventually came to tell the tale, as you were saying during the game as well. JDG just don't. They don't have that wealth of experience behind them in these incredibly hard-fought games where every decision is so vital.
It was, and I think if you're looking at, if you're Invictus, if you're any of these other top teams looking at EDG, I think you're salivating at the mouth. That was anything but a clean wrap-up, and there are a lot of holes that EDG will be looking to fix, not only moving in towards the remainder of the Demacia Cup 2018 winter split, but also into the spring split of LPL.
Incredibly hard-fought game. Certainly not what we'd be expecting so early on in the tournament. We need to know how it happened, and our experts are the ones positioned to answer. So, everybody, take it away.
What an incredible game. Thank you very much to Peter, Counterfeit, Hartnell, and of course to the main man, Gosu Dreams, who I can only apologize to for getting the name of earlier. I will certainly not be forgetting your name in a hurry after that incredible game, that great casting. Louis returned, break it down. That was amazing.
It was clowny, but I think I think Ray was like the shining figure of hope in that entire game. Was like doing the split push early, and then later on just basically saved EDG from the brink of defeat there with that flash fear that basically stopped that engage from Jindong that probably would have won them the game. So yeah, Ray, good job. Everybody else, back to the drawing board.
Yeah, even on top of that, of course, I think it was the playmaking coming out of both, Lee Sin and Urgot, the combo of Ray and Haru that kept them through that game. The crucial Barons going over. I know it started with Ray on the Baron secure with the Urgot, so they're only going over pretty well. But that's just gonna mean that EDG now will be moving on, and unfortunately for Jindong, this is the end of the road.
Yeah, they get to go home early to celebrate Christmas. We saw there that JD and SNG both managed to win those full best-of-3 series, continuing on the losers bracket, where they will face up against either the losers of IG or RW, Top or RNG. Those two winning teams in those games, they'll go off to facing the regular winners bracket final, with the winner of that getting into the grand final. We'll be bringing you 2 semi-finals of the regular bracket, the semi-finals on the losers bracket, and that will all be coming tomorrow. But for today, I think we are all done. So
yes.
It remains for me to say a massive thank you to Lou in return, who have been on the on the analyst desk. We've heard our fantastic casters, Counterfeit and Gosu Dreams, to Opal Cast, of course, who have been on the desk and is hosting this whole event, and to everybody else who has been on analyst desk or casting today.
And a huge thanks to Greyheart for casting and hosting.
Yeah, well, that's me. Thank you, me. I've been Stanley Greyheart Barker, and we hope to catch you tomorrow on twitch.tv/opalcasts for more fantastic Demacia Cup coverage.
Bye.
You know who it is. Come around again. You wanna dose of this right now? It's KDA. I'm a goddess with a blaze. 소리처럼 나 이래.